The cold slowly left Jake Morrison's body as the machines pumped warm blood back into his veins. His eyes opened for the first time in 500,000 years. The metal ceiling above him looked the same as when he had closed his eyes. But something felt different. The air tasted wrong. The silence was too heavy. Jake tried to move his fingers. They felt like ice. The cryopod opened with a soft hiss, and he pulled himself up on shaking arms. His legs barely held him when he stood. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest. "Captain Morrison," a voice said from the speakers around him. "Welcome back." Jake knew that voice. Aria, the ship's computer. She had been the last thing he heard before the long sleep began. "How long?" Jake asked. His voice came out as a whisper. 500,000 years, 2 months, and 16 days, Aria replied. "You are the first to wake. The others will follow in the next few hours." Jake stumbled to the small window in the cryobay. Outside, stars filled the darkness. They looked wrong too. These were not the stars he remembered from Earth's sky. These were alien stars in a part of space he had never seen. "Where are we?" he asked. "We are in the void between the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies," Aria said. "We have been hiding here since the fall of Earth. The Zephyrians believe we are all dead." The memories came back like a punch to the gut. Earth burning. The Great. Ships fleeing into space. Billions of humans dying in seconds when the alien weapons hit. Jake had been a young captain then, commanding a small military vessel. Now he was old in years but young in body, thanks to the long sleep. The door to the cryobay opened. Lisa Bennett walked in, already awake and dressed in a clean uniform. She looked exactly as she had 500,000 years ago. The woman who had been his second in command was now a commander herself. "Jake," she said with a small smile. "Good to see you breathing again." "Lisa," Jake nodded. "I feel like I was hit by a truck. That feeling will pass. The medical team says it takes about 6 hours for the body to fully wake up." Lisa handed him a cup of hot coffee. "Drink this. It will help." Jake took the cup with both hands. The coffee was real, not the synthetic stuff they had been drinking before the long sleep. "How?" he asked. "We found ways to grow things on the ships. 500,000 years is a long time, Jake. We learned to do things we never thought possible." Jake sipped the coffee. It tasted like home. Like the Earth he remembered. "Tell me what happened. Tell me everything." Lisa sat down on a metal bench. "After we fled Earth, we kept running for 50 years. The Zephyrians hunted us across half the galaxy. We lost 7 ships in those early years. The remaining 12 ships made it to the void between galaxies." 12 ships, Jake repeated. "Out of how many?" "We started with 47 ships. About 30 million people total." Lisa's voice got quiet. "The ones we have left carry about 15 million humans. We've been growing that number slowly." Jake felt sick. So very few left of all humanity. "The first 100 years were the hardest," Lisa continued. "We had to learn to live in space. Really live, not just survive. We built farms on the ships. We made new homes. We had children and taught them about Earth." "Children who never saw the sky," Jake said. "No, but children who grew up knowing what the Zephyrians took from us." Lisa stood up. "Come on. Admiral Carter wants to see you." They walked through the corridors of the ship. Jake had expected to see the same metal walls and flickering lights he remembered. Instead, the ship looked completely different. The walls were covered with plants growing in special holders. Art hung on the walls, real art, painted by human hands. The lights were warm and steady. "We rebuilt everything," Lisa explained as they walked. "The ships were just metal boxes when we fled Earth. Now they're homes, real homes." They passed a large window. Jake stopped and stared. Outside he could see other ships. Massive ships, each one the size of a small city. They moved through space in a perfect formation. The New Horizon is the smallest of the 12 ships, Lisa said. Some of the others are 10 times larger. We built them during the long years in the void. They reached the command center. It was bigger than Jake remembered, with dozens of people working at stations. Everyone wore the same uniform, but it was different from the old Earth military uniforms. These were dark blue with silver trim. On the chest of each uniform was a patch showing a blue planet with a single moon. Earth, Jake said, pointing to the patch. We never forgot, Lisa replied. Admiral Ryan Carter stood at the center of the command center. Jake recognized him immediately, even though Carter had been just a major when Earth fell. He was a big man, with gray hair and serious eyes. Jake Morrison, Carter said, walking over with his hand extended. Good to have you back among the living. Admiral, Jake replied, shaking the offered hand. I hear you've been busy while I was sleeping. Carter smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We've been preparing. For 500,000 years we've been getting ready for this day. This day? The day we go home, Jake. The day we take back what they stole from us. Carter turned to look at a large screen showing star charts. The Zephyrian Empire has grown fat and lazy. They think they won the war 500,000 years ago. They think humanity is just a memory. They're wrong, Jake said. Very wrong. Carter's smile became sharper. We're going to show them just how wrong they are. Jake looked around the command center. These people had spent their entire lives preparing for war. They had been born for one purpose, to return to the galaxy and face the aliens who had destroyed their homeworld. What do you need me to do? Jake asked. Lead the advance team, Carter replied. We need intelligence on Zephyrian defenses. We need to know their strengths and weaknesses. Most importantly, we need to know if they still remember what humans look like. Jake nodded. When do we leave? Tomorrow. The fleet moves toward the Milky Way in 72 hours. Your mission launches in 12 hours. Jake felt something he had not felt in 500,000 years. Purpose, direction, the chance to strike back at the aliens who had destroyed everything he had ever loved. I'll be ready, he said. Carter put a hand on Jake's shoulder. I know. You will. Welcome to the war, Captain. The real war starts now. The small stealth ship cut through space like a knife through black water. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls. Behind her, 3 other humans prepared for what might be their last mission. Target in sight, Amy said quietly into her headset. The Zephyrian border station hung in space ahead of them like a metal spider. It was huge, bigger than any space station humans had ever built back on Earth. Remember the plan, Amy told her team. We're traders from the Kellic system. We've never seen humans before. We don't know what humans are. The other 3 nodded. They had been training for this mission for 10 years. Every detail had been planned. Every word they might say had been practiced. Amy, came Admiral Carter's voice through the radio. You know what this means to all of us? Yes, sir, Amy replied. We won't let you down. The genetic modifications hurt. Amy felt her bones changing shape, her skin color shifting. The machines built into her body changed her appearance completely. In 30 minutes, she looked like a Kellic trader. Her team went through the same painful process. The Zephyrian station grew larger as they approached. Amy could see the weapon ports and shield generators. This single station had enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The aliens had built their empire on fear and superior weapons. Unknown vessel, came a voice over the radio. The Universal. Translator turned the alien words into English. State your business. This is Trader Amy of the Kellic Merchant Guild, Amy replied, using the fake voice the machines gave her. We seek trade agreements with the great Zephyrian Empire. Stand by for inspection. The inspection took 2 hours. Zephyrian soldiers searched every inch of their ship. They found nothing suspicious because there was nothing to find. The stealth technology was built into the ship's hull itself. Amy and her team were brought to the station commander's office. The Zephyrian was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were black and cold. Kellic traders are not common in this sector, the commander said. The Kellic Guild is always looking for new markets, Amy replied. We have heard much about Zephyrian goods, the commander smiled. His teeth were sharp like a shark's. Indeed, we have many fine products. Come, let me show you our museum. You will see the greatness of our empire. They walked through the station's corridors. Amy tried not to stare at the weapons and defenses she saw. Her hidden camera recorded everything for later analysis. The museum was larger than Amy had expected. Glass cases filled the room, each one containing artifacts from different alien species. The commander led them from case to case, explaining how each species had been conquered. And here, the commander said proudly, is our greatest victory. Amy stopped breathing. The case contained human artifacts. A child's toy, a wedding ring, a photograph of Earth taken from space. Above the case, written in both Zephyrian and English, were the words, "The extinct humans of Earth, defeated 500,000 years ago." Fascinating, Amy managed to say. Her voice sounded calm, but inside she was screaming. Yes, the humans were particularly troublesome, the commander continued. They thought they were warriors. They thought they could fight the Empire. We showed them otherwise. Amy looked at more cases, human books. Human weapons that looked primitive compared to Zephyrian technology. A flag from Earth with its blue and green colors. What happened to them? Amy asked. We killed them all, the commander said with pride. Every last one. Their planet burned for days. It was beautiful to watch. One of Amy's team members, a young man named Pete, stepped closer to a case. Inside was a human military uniform. The name tag read Colonel Martinez. Did they fight well? Pete asked. They tried, the commander laughed. But what can primitive apes do against the might of the Empire? They had no chance. None at all. Amy wanted to kill the commander right there. Her hands shook with rage. But she forced herself to stay calm. The mission was more important than revenge. Not yet. They spent 3 more hours on the station. Amy saw weapon storage areas, communication centers, and troop quarters. She counted soldiers and noted their equipment. All of it was recorded by her hidden devices. Thank you for the tour, Amy said as they prepared to leave. The Kellic Guild will consider trade agreements. Excellent, the commander replied. The Empire always welcomes new trading partners, especially ones who know their place. Back on their ship, Amy waited until they were far from the station. Before speaking, did you get everything? She asked her communications officer. Every word, every image, he replied. The whole station layout is mapped. Amy looked back at the Zephyrian station, shrinking in the distance. Then let's go home. The Admiral needs to see this. The journey back to the human fleet took 6 days. Amy spent most of that time staring out at the stars, thinking about what she had seen. The museum haunted her dreams. All those human artifacts, displayed like trophies from a hunting trip. When they reached the fleet, Amy was brought directly to Admiral Carter's command ship. She stood in his office with her report in hand. What did you find? Carter asked. They remember us, Amy said. They have a whole museum dedicated to their victory over humanity. They're proud of what they did. Show me. Amy activated the hologram projector. Images from the museum filled the room. Carter's face grew hard as he saw the human artifacts on display. Colonel Martinez, Carter said quietly, looking at the uniform in the case. I knew him. He was a good man. They think we're extinct, Amy continued. Completely gone. They have no idea we survived. That's good for us, Carter said. But this museum ... What it gets worse, sir. Amy switched to the next recording. They've been telling this story to their children for 500,000 years. Defeating humanity is part of their culture now. They celebrate it. Carter watched the recording of the commander bragging about burning Earth. His hands formed fists. Sir, Amy said carefully, there's something else. The station commander mentioned other species they've conquered. The museum had dozens of cases. We're not the only ones they've destroyed. How many? I counted 47 different species, all extinct. All displayed like hunting trophies. Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at Amy. Good work, Commander. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start planning the real mission. What's the real mission, sir? Carter smiled, but his eyes were cold as space. We're going to take down that museum, Amy, and we're going to make sure the Zephyrians become the newest display. Jake Morrison crouched behind a pile of metal containers on the Zephyrian capital world. The air smelled wrong, full of chemicals and alien scents. Above them, the alien city stretched into the sky with buildings that looked like twisted metal. Trees. Target building is 2 blocks north, whispered Dana Wright, the team's tech specialist. She stared at a small device in her hand that showed the city layout. Heavy security, but nothing we can't handle. Tony Martinez checked his weapon for the 3rd time. The big soldier had been quiet since they landed on the planet 3 days ago. I still don't like this plan, he said. Too many things can go wrong. Everything can go wrong, Jake replied. That's why we're here instead of sending the whole fleet. They had been on the planet for 72 hours, moving through the underground tunnels that connected different parts of the city. The Zephyrians had built their capital like a giant hive, with most of the important buildings connected by passages beneath the surface. Donna's device beeped softly. I'm picking up the signal. The military database is definitely in that building. If we can access it, we'll have everything we need. Jake nodded. The mission was simple in theory. Get into the Zephyrian military headquarters, access their main computer systems, download information about their weapons and defenses. Get out. A live dot, they moved through the shadows between buildings. The Zephyrian civilians they passed paid them no attention. Their disguises were perfect, down to the last detail. They looked like Vorthan traders, a common species in this part of the galaxy. The military building was massive, covering several city blocks. Guard towers stood at each corner, manned by Zephyrian soldiers carrying energy weapons. Patrol ships flew overhead in regular patterns. There, Dana pointed to a maintenance entrance on the building's east side. The security scans show only basic locks. I can get us through. They waited until the patrol ship passed overhead, then ran across the open space to the building. Dana worked on the lock while Jake and Tony watched for guards. The door opened with a soft click dot inside. The building was dark and quiet. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. They followed Dana's scanner deeper into the building, avoiding security cameras and motion sensors. Computer center should be on the 10th floor, Dana whispered. They took the stairs instead of the elevator, climbing 15 flights in the alien gravity that felt lighter than Earth's. Jake's modified body handled the climb easily, but he could see Tony breathing. Hard. The 10th floor was different from the rest of the building. Here, the walls were covered with screens showing data streams and star charts. Zephyrian technicians worked at computer stations throughout the large room. 23 technicians, Tony counted quietly. 4 guards. This is going to be messy. Wait, Jake said. He watched the technicians for several minutes, noting their patterns. They're changing shifts in 10 minutes. Look at the time displays. They waited. At exactly midnight local time, half the technicians left their stations and walked toward the elevator. The night shift was smaller, only 8 technicians and 2 guards. Much better odds, Tony smiled. They waited another 30 minutes for the night shift to settle into their routine. Then Jake gave the signal. They moved fast and quiet. Tony took down the guards before they could raise an alarm. Jake and Dana handled the technicians, using sleep gas that would keep them unconscious. For hours. Clear, Jake said after checking the last technician. Dana, you're up. Dana ran to the main computer terminal. Her fingers flew over the alien controls as she inserted her hacking device. Their security is good, but not good enough. I'm in. Data flowed across the screens. Star charts showing Zephyrian territory. Troop movements, weapon specifications, ship designs. Jake, look at this, Data said, pointing to one screen. They have planet-killer weapons in 50 different locations. Each one can destroy a world in minutes. Jake felt sick. 50 weapons. Like the one that had destroyed Earth. Can you get the locations? Already downloading. But there's more. Dana switched to another screen. Look at this file. The screen showed a laboratory report. Jake read the alien text through his translator. Human genetic experiments? They've been working with human DNA for 300,000 years, Dana said. They kept samples from Earth. They're trying to create a slave race. Slaves that look like us? Worse, slaves that think like us but obey them completely. Dana's voice was angry. They want humans who are smart enough to be useful but broken enough to serve. Tony looked over their shoulders. How many? The report says they have about 1,000 test subjects in laboratories across the Empire. All of them grown from Earth DNA. Jake felt rage building in his chest. It wasn't enough that the Zephyrians had destroyed Earth. They were still hurting humans, creating them just to make them suffer. Download everything, he ordered. Every file they have. Dana worked for 20 minutes, copying data onto their storage devices. The computers held information about every aspect of the Zephyrian military. Ship designs, weapon specifications, defense plans, troop numbers. Done, Dana said. We have everything. An alarm started blaring throughout the building. Red lights flashed on and off. Time to go, Tony said, checking his weapon. They ran for the stairs, but elevator doors opened and Zephyrian soldiers poured out. Jake and his team were trapped on the 10th floor with nowhere to run. This way, came a voice from behind them. They turned to see a human woman standing by a hidden door in the wall. She was tall and thin with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore a Zephyrian lab coat, but Jake could see the anger in her face. Dr. Karen Phillips, she said quickly. I've been waiting 300 years for humans to come back. Follow me if you want to live. Jake looked at Tony and Dana. They had no choice. The soldiers were getting closer. Lead the way, Jake said. Dr. Phillips led them through hidden passages built into the building's walls. I helped design this building, she explained as they ran. I've been working inside their system since the fall of Earth. Working for them? Tony asked suspiciously. Working against them, Phillips replied. I've been sabotaging their research for centuries, slowing down their weapons development, protecting the human test subjects when I could. They reached another hidden door that led to a maintenance tunnel beneath the building. Behind them, they could hear soldiers searching the computer center. How many other humans are still alive? Jake asked as they crawled through the tunnel. Maybe 50 of us scattered across the Empire, Philip said. We've been very careful, very patient. We knew someday our people would come back. They emerged from the tunnel 6 blocks away from the military building. Phillips led them to a small building that looked like a warehouse. Safe house, she explained. I've been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. Inside the warehouse, Jake saw maps of the Zephyrian Empire covering the walls. Photos of military installations. Notes about guard rotations and security procedures. You've been busy, Dana said. looking at the intelligence. "I had time," Phillips replied with a bitter smile. "Lots of time." Jake studied the maps. "Can you get us off this planet?" "Already arranged. A cargo ship leaves for the border in 6 hours. You'll be on it." Phillips looked at the data storage devices Dana carried. "Did you get what you came for?" "More than we hoped," Jake said, "including information about human prisoners." Phillips went very still. "You're going to rescue them?" "Every last one," Jake promised. "No human gets left behind. Not this time." Phillips nodded slowly. "Then it's time for the Zephyrians to learn what happens when they mess with humanity." Jake looked out the warehouse window at the alien city. Soon, very soon, this place would burn, and humanity would finally have their revenge. Admiral Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the command ship watching the stars ahead. In 6 hours, the human fleet would drop out of hyperspace and begin the attack that had been planned for 500,000 years. "All ships report ready," Commander Alex Turner said from his station. "Weapons charged, shields up, troops in position," Carter nodded. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. These were the children and grandchildren of Earth survivors, raised on stories of the homeworld they had never seen. Today they would fight for people they had never met. "Signal from the advance team," came a voice from communications. "Captain Morrison confirms intelligence is accurate. Zephyrian defenses are exactly where we expected." "Good," Carter said. "Send the final attack order to all ships. Operation Homecoming begins in 5 hours and 30 minutes. Across the fleet, 12 massive ships prepared for war. The largest ship, New Earth, carried 2 million humans and enough firepower to level a planet. The smallest, Morrison's ship, New Horizon, was still bigger than anything humanity had built before the fall. Colonel Maria Santos stood in the troop bay of New Earth, looking at the soldiers under her command. 5,000 men and women, all volunteers, all ready to die for humanity's cause. "Listen up," Santos called out. "In 5 hours we drop into the Zephyrian home system. Our job is simple. We take the planet. We free the human prisoners. We make sure the aliens never hurt anyone." Again, the soldiers were quiet. They had trained for this their entire lives, but training was different from real combat. Many of them had never seen an alien except in pictures. "Remember your training," Santos continued. "Remember what they did to Earth. Remember why we're here." Sergeant Kevin Johnson raised his hand. "Colonel, what about civilians? Alien civilians?" "We don't target civilians," Santos replied. "But anyone who fights us dies. Anyone who tries to stop us dies. Anyone who gets in our way dies. This is war, not a police action." On the bridge of New Horizon, Jake Morrison prepared his own team for the mission ahead. They would land first, securing the military installation where the human prisoners were held. "Tony, your squad takes the north entrance," Jake said, pointing to a hologram of the alien facility. "Dana, you're with me on the main assault. We get in fast, find our people, get them out." "What about the guards?" asked Tony Martinez. "What about them?" Jake replied coldly. "They've been torturing humans for centuries. I don't plan to ask them nicely to surrender." Dana Wright checked her equipment one more time. "Jake, Dr. Phillips sent us the guard schedules and security codes. We'll have maybe 20 minutes before they realize what's happening. 20 minutes is all we need." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. Alarms immediately began blaring on alien ships and space stations throughout the system. "Zephyrian fleet moving to intercept," reported the tactical officer. 50 ships, including 3 of their heavy cruisers. Carter smiled. "Only 50? They really did think we were extinct." "All ships, engage targets. Show them what 500,000 years of human engineering can do." The first Zephyrian ship to attack was destroyed in seconds. Human plasma cannons tore through its shields like paper. The aliens had superior numbers, but human technology was now far beyond anything they had ever seen. Commander Turner watched the battle displays with satisfaction. Their weapons can't even penetrate our shields. It's like shooting at us with sticks. Don't get overconfident, Carter warned. They still have the planet-killer weapons. If they use those ... they won't, Turner replied. They can't risk destroying their own homeworld. We planned for that. On the planet's surface, Zephyrian military commanders watched in horror as their space fleet was systematically destroyed. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light. How is this possible? Demanded General Kethver, the planet's military leader. Humans are extinct. We killed them all. Apparently not all of them, replied his aide. Sir, we're receiving surrender demands from the human fleet. Surrender? Kethver laughed bitterly. To extinct apes? Never. Activate the planetary defenses. If we're going to die, we'll take some of them with us. But the planetary defenses were already under attack. Human troops had landed at a dozen locations, using stealth technology that made them invisible to Zephyrian sensors. They moved through alien military bases like ghosts, destroying everything they found. Jake Morrison's team hit the prison facility at exactly the planned time. They found the building surrounded by confused guards who had no idea what was happening. Remember, no prisoners, Jake told his team over the radio. These guards have been torturing our people for centuries. The battle was over in minutes. The Zephyrian guards were equipped for dealing with prisoners, not for fighting enhanced human soldiers, who could move faster than the aliens could see. Jake found the first group of human prisoners in a laboratory deep underground. They were thin and pale, kept in small cells like animals. When they saw Jake, many of them started crying. It's okay, Jake told them. We're here to take you home. Home? Asked one of the prisoners, a young woman who looked like she had been born in captivity. What's home? Earth, Jake said. We're going to build a new Earth. Dana's voice came over the radio. Jake, I found something. You need to see this. Jake followed Dana to another laboratory. Inside, he found rows of tanks, filled with liquid. In each tank floated a human body, unconscious and connected to machines. They're growing them, Dana said with disgust. Growing humans from DNA to use as slaves. Jake counted the tanks. Over 100 human bodies in various stages of development. Can we save them? I think so. But we need to get them to our medical ships fast. Do it. Save every one of them. The battle for the planet lasted 8 hours. When it was over, every Zephyrian military installation had been destroyed. The alien government had surrendered unconditionally. The human fleet controlled the entire system. Admiral Carter received the surrender document from General Kethver in the ruins of the alien Capitol building. The Zephyrian leader was bloody and beaten, his forearms shaking with fear. You were supposed to be extinct, Kethver said. We got better, Carter replied. Now you're going to learn what happens when you mess with humanity. Are you going to kill us all? Carter looked at the alien general for a long moment. That would be justice. You killed billions of humans. You destroyed our world. You tortured our people for 500,000 years. But, Kethver asked hopefully. But, we're not you, Carter said. We don't murder entire species. We don't torture prisoners. We don't destroy worlds for fun. Carter turned to Colonel Santos. Strip them of all military technology. Destroy every weapon they have. Reduce them to pre-industrial level. Sir, Santos said, that will essentially end their civilization. Yes, Carter replied, just like they ended ours. The difference is we're letting them live. Jake Morrison stood in the transport ship carrying rescued human prisoners back to the fleet. Many of them had never seen the stars before. They pressed against the windows, staring in wonder at the darkness of space. Is it true? asked the young woman from the laboratory. Are we really free? You're free, Jake promised. And you're going home. To a new world where humans will never be slaves again. Outside the transport, the ruins of the Zephyrian fleet drifted in space. 500,000 years of waiting had finally paid off. Humanity had its revenge, but more importantly, humanity had its people back. 6 months after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Admiral Ryan Carter walked through the gardens of New Terra, humanity's new homeworld. The planet was similar to Earth, with blue skies and green forests. Children who had been born in space now played under real sunlight for the first time. Commander Lisa Bennett joined him on the walking path. The council meeting starts in an hour, she said. The other species are getting impatient, Carter nodded. Representatives from 47 different alien species had come to New Terra. All of them had been enslaved by the Zephyrians at some point. All of them wanted to know what humanity planned to do next. Any word from the prison inspection teams? Carter asked. Jake Morrison's report came in this morning, Lisa replied. The Zephyrians had over 50 prison worlds. We found survivors from 31 different species. Most of them thought their people were extinct. They walked past a memorial garden where black stone walls listed the names of every human who had died when Earth was destroyed. The list was millions of names long. At the center stood a statue of a child reaching toward the stars. The Kellic delegation wants us to give them Zephyrian technology, Lisa continued. They say it's payment for what the Empire did to their world. And the Vorthans? They want us to execute every Zephyrian leader, public trials, then death. Carter stopped walking and looked up at the sky. New Terra's sun was yellow like Earth's sun had been. What do you think we should do? I think we should ask the prisoners, Lisa said. The people who actually suffered under Zephyrian rule, let them decide. In the council chamber, representatives from dozens of species filled the seats. Some were humanoid, others looked like giant insects or living crystals. All of them had one thing in common. They had lost everything to the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front of the room. Behind him, a holographic display showed the current state of former Zephyrian territory. Hundreds of worlds, now free for the first time in centuries. The inspection is complete, Jake announced. We found prison camps on 51 worlds, slave colonies on hundreds more. In total, we rescued over 2 billion beings from Zephyrian control. A delegate from the Altair system stood up. What about our homeworlds? The Zephyrians strip-mined our planets for resources. The restoration teams are already working, Jake replied. Human technology can repair environmental damage. It will take time, but your worlds can be healed. Another delegate, this one looking like a walking tree, spoke up. That's not enough. We want justice. We want the Zephyrians to pay for what they did. They have paid, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. Karen Phillips entering the Maiwa chamber. The human scientist looked older than her years, tired from centuries of fighting the Empire from within. The Zephyrian civilization is gone, Phillips continued. Their technology has been destroyed. Their military is disbanded. Their leaders are in prison on their homeworld with no way to leave the planet. But they're still alive, the tree delegate protested. They destroyed entire species. They should die for their crimes. Death is too easy, Phillips replied. Let them live with what they've done. Let them spend the rest of their existence knowing they lost everything. Admiral Carter stepped forward. Dr. Phillips is right. We've reduced the Zephyrians to a pre-industrial society. They have no ships, no advanced weapons, no way to hurt anyone ever again. But what about us? Asked a delegate whose species looked like flying rays. Our people are scattered across the galaxy. We have no ships to reunite our families. That's why we're here, Carter said. Humanity is offering to help every species. Rebuild will provide ships, technology, and protection. No one will be enslaved again. The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates talked among themselves. Some were grateful, others suspicious. Many had never seen aliens work together peacefully before. A young delegate from the Kepler world stood up. "Why are you helping us? What do humans want in return?" Carter thought for a moment before answering. 500,000 years ago, the Zephyrians destroyed our world. They thought they had wiped us out completely. But we survived, we rebuilt, we came back stronger than before. He gestured to the holographic display showing free worlds across the galaxy. "We don't want to rule over you. We don't want your resources or your territory. We want to make sure no species ever has to go through what we went through." "A galactic alliance," Lisa added. "Species working together, protecting each other. No empire, no rulers, just cooperation." The tree delegate shook his leafy head. "It sounds too good to be true. There's always someone who wants to conquer others." "Then we stop them," said a voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to see Sergeant Kevin Johnson entering with a group of rescued prisoners. They were from different species, all of them bearing scars from their time in Zephyrian camps. "We stop them before they can hurt innocent people," Johnson continued. "We stop them like humanity stopped the Zephyrians." One of the rescued prisoners, a being that looked like a crystalline spider, spoke up. "The humans could have killed all the Zephyrians. They had the power to destroy their world like the Zephyrians destroyed Earth. But they didn't. Why not?" asked the tree delegate. "Because that would make us just like them," Carter replied. "And we're better than that." The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted harsh punishment for the Zephyrians. Others worried about human intentions. But slowly, gradually, consensus began to form. The final vote was unanimous. The Galactic Protection Alliance was born, with humanity as its first members and protectors. 2 years later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the exploration ship New Frontier. They were heading toward the edge of known space, searching for other species that might need help. "Signal coming in," reported Communications Officer Dana Wright. "It's a distress call from an unknown system." "What kind of distress?" Jake asked. "Looks like a species under attack by raiders. They're requesting help from anyone who can hear them." Jake smiled. "Set course for their system. Maximum speed." "Sir," Dana said, "we don't know anything about these people. They could be hostile." "Then we'll find out when we get there," Jake replied. "But if someone needs help, humanity will answer." As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Jake looked back at the star where New Terra orbited. Humanity had built a new home among the stars. They had found their place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The Zephyrians had thought they were destroying humanity when they burned Earth. Instead, they had created something much more dangerous to those who would harm the innocent. They had created a species that would never again allow genocide to go unanswered. In the memorial garden on New Terra, new names were being added to the walls. Not names of the dead, but names of the saved. Billions of beings from across the galaxy who now lived free because humanity had kept its promise. The statue of the child reaching for the stars had new words carved at its base. Remember what was lost. Honor what was gained. Protect what remains. Humanity had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest victory is not in destroying your enemies, but in making sure they can never hurt anyone again. And sometimes the best revenge is building something better than what was destroyed. The stars held no more fear for humanity. They held only hope and the promise that no species would ever again face extinction alone.